Hey everyone, JVD here from the Villains Man, bringing you another comic book review over Kong, Gods of Skull Island. This is a one-shot from Boom Studios that's kind of a follow-up with their Kongs of Skull Island maxi series, which is 12 issues, which I've done reviews on those. And it's official from the Cooper family, so it's kind of like the true origins of Kong. And you get a lot of that in those stories, so I recommend highly reading those. I've done reviews over all 12 issues, so please check those out. But this one shot is centered around a man named James Copeland. And obviously, I'm going to assume this takes place in the early 1900s. I'm not really sure if it will take place before the movie King Kong from 1933 or after. But he is in an airplane, and the ships are wooden. So I'm not really understanding the timeline there, but I think it was set at like 1912, and I don't remember if I don't even think there's planes in 1912. Certainly not with like what he was flying in, excuse me, because it looks like a fighter plane, like an old World War II, World War I fighter plane. But yeah, well, maybe time-wise, maybe that is about right. So I don't know. Anyways, he basically is becoming an explorer of uncharted territory, uncharted lands, specifically like islands, and he has heard of Skull Island. And this is going to be his last great hurrah. This will be the one that makes the money. Basically, him and his crew, they go to these islands to basically make friends with the natives, bring Christianity to them, help them learn how to grow crops and be civilized while taking resources from the land. And a couple main characters, he's basically the main one, but the next one you've got Mary Talbot, who you find out he's kind of in love with. You don't know if there was a past relationship or he just hasn't professed his love. He does talk about dreams where it does show that they're romantically involved in a very sexual way. So, but you never kind of learn if it did happen or if it didn't. But I'm assuming that it did just by some of the dialogue. You get Hodge and a character named Ridley. Oddly enough, they're on the same ship. The other ship, which I think is called the Contender, is ran by a Captain Cooper. So a little nod to the family that owns the King Kong franchise. Anyway, so they show up to Skull Island. The Tagatu, Tagawa, whatever you want to call their tribe, from the 12 issues that have become one. They're still there, and the ships have to split up. Well, Copeland's ship comes on the island, and they see all these people waiting for them. They're not people. They're like stick scarecrows, and they've got bits of bone and like wood to them, and they're basically to scare people away. And that's the whole point of this whole story. The tribe is trying to scare them away and warn them of Kong, that they do not belong here. And eventually you're going to find out throughout the story that people have tried to come and conquer Skull Island and have all failed due to the gods of the island. And that just doesn't include Kong. You'll find out of other gods on the island. And if you've read the issues before this, those 12 issues, or like listen to my reviews, one of them is this massive two-headed Tyrannosaurus Rex thing, which is really cool. And that kind of wraps up the first half of the old Kong story that goes before this. But to kind of get into some spoilers here, the other ship crashes, and they don't get word of it for like 3 months, and they don't know what happened. And they're trapped on the island by themselves. You find out Copeland is dying, and he's kind of hidden it from everybody. Mary finds out. But she is there to basically teach the tribe of Christianity, which a young boy takes to a lot. You can see where he's been viciously burned on the side of his face, and I wouldn't say he's an outcast from the tribe, but there is one, which is the shaman, which does look down on him. And they are the first two that they meet when they come to the island, because they are actually hidden amongst the scarecrow people, which kind of scare them when they come to the beach. And you find out that's almost a tactic of the whole tribe, as a lot of people are dressed like that. But over these 3 months, basically Ridley learns of Kong, and Kong is who they worship on the island, not the other gods, just Kong. And Copeland doesn't want to believe it. Well, and then not too long after they're there, maybe a couple of weeks into their stay there. They're trying to civilize the tribe. He's like, here, smoke this cigar. It's from this black leaf on the vines on the wall, and take in the gospel of Kong. And so as they're doing their rituals and prayers to Kong and whatnot, he sees a couple of things. First, Ridley tells him the story of a magician that come to Skull Island to try to conquer Skull Island. He came with these elemental creatures, and Kong defeated every one of them. And then there was the dead Kong, and he enslaved the dead and raised them. And Kong defeated his ancestors' undead bodies and drove the wizard back, killed him. Then there's another story where you see basically these Spanish conquistadors show up, and they came to enslave the people of Skull Island. And as they were taking the people through the island, they met Kong. And these pterodactyls, they pick them up, basically land all of them in an area where they fight Kong, and Kong kills them all. And then we learn, we see more about Vala, who is the rogue Kong at the end of the Kong of Skull Island series. And basically she had the infant from Ghost who became what we all know as King Kong. We see a story of them and how they fought this great giant worm that was considered a god of Skull Island. And it took baby Kong, and Vala chased it to the center of the earth and battled it, only to find out there was a much bigger one. And together, her and Kong, who is now grown somewhat, kill this thing and find out there is a lost people down there that worship this worm, that now worship the Kong for killing it. And then you tell that as Ridley telling him these stories as he's hallucinating from smoking this leaf, there is you learn of these. They look like vulture monkey things, and basically they follow Kong, much like the raptors did the two-headed T-Rex and Ghost later on. And you realize there's a lot of creatures on the island that worship Kong. And eventually he's not believing it. Copeland does like this. No, there is no such thing as Kong on the island. They haven't been to the other side of the wall. They have not met the creatures that the other crew met the fate of and have been scattered throughout the island trying to survive. Well, anyways, being fed up with not seeing the other crew and that the island isn't taking to what he wants, this child that's taken on Christianity, Copeland kind of talks him into like, well, if you believe in your faith, why don't you go up there and preach it? So he goes to say a prayer of the Bible, God give us his son, blah, 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 that one. Anyways, the shaman attacks him and almost kills him. Well, that night, the tribe, while they're sleeping, takes Copeland's men, his crew, and they throw him over the wall. And Hodge, he's kind of had some issues with, manages to steal their guns because he sees the tribe gathering up people. Well, anyway, so they're going to go to the mountain, and Ridley's like, well, that's where Kong lives. And they're like, well, that's where the cove was, and that's where the other crew has to be. So they travel across Skull Island, and eventually they are picked off one by one. And as they're on their way to the cove, to Kong's mountain, they wind up seeing the hallucinations Copeland had from the stories Ridley was telling him. They're real. They see the skeleton of the giant worm. They see the armor and the weaponry from the Spanish conquistadors. Like, they see where Kong has actually battled these things and killed them, and he still refuses to believe it. Well, until and they even see like the skeleton of the old Kong, where Kong had killed those, and he still refuses to believe it. And then things change when this, I would call it Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's got 3 claws on its hands. It's more like a giant Allosaurus, I would assume. But it shows up to attack them, and it kills, I think this is where Hodge dies. Well, anyways, during the battle, Kong shows up, and this thing is not shit to him. As they begin to fight, finally Copeland realizes that Kong's real, and he still tries to not believe it. And Kong is fighting this thing, and he literally grabs it by the top of its skull and rips its skull completely off of its head, top of its head, just pulls it off and just hurls it. And everybody's just kind of in disbelief. And so they start firing their guns at Kong. It's not hurting him, and he takes Mary because obviously he realizes it's a woman, and it makes me wonder if this is back. This starts off from where I can't remember her name, the girl that wound up becoming Queen Iwata's daughter. And I wonder if this is kind of where this starts. You know, that he's just used to having this female that took care of him, so he takes Mary. And Copeland's wanting to save her, but he can't. And the rest of his crew pick him up because they see a ship out in the cove. And they watch as Mary's watching back at them, helpless to escape Kong. And Kong takes her away. And that's kind of how the story ends. So, basically, you know, they can't beat Kong. This is Skull Island. This is his realm. And, basically, it's just trying to tell you that man can never conquer this island. And if you watched any of the Kongs from the original Kong, and then if you watch 76, 2005, even Skull Island, you know, no man has ever been able to conquer Skull Island. So it's a really good story. It doesn't, which if it, you know, this is all official from the Cooper family. I mean, this is all ties into the real story of Kong. It's something you could probably get away with not reading unless you're a super King Kong fan, which I am. And it's a really good story because, you know, if you know Kong, Kong is mostly tied to dinosaurs. Well, and now we've seen this thing where this wizard and these elementals, which I thought that was the most curious of everything to me, is that what that means magic is real within the Kong mythos? Because when you read this, you literally see a wizard casting a spell, creating these elementals, and Kong fighting them. And then you even see him raise the skeletons of the deceased Kong. Kong fights them. So I thought that was pretty crazy. It's very interesting to know that magic exists in King Kong, which I guess if you're a Godzilla fan, Mothra is considered a deity, so giant moth insect gods are a thing. So, I mean, I guess that's not really surprising. There's not a lot of action if you like kaiju action here. It's just little short bursts. Like I said, the fight with this Allosaurus thing, it is very quick. All in one panel, you see Kong beat it, grab it by the top of the head, and just rip the top of its head off and chunk it. All the back flashes to the conquistadors, the elementals, the undead, and the giant worm, real short fight. So there's not a lot to read there if you're looking for action. Just a really good, nice story that kind of gives you an idea of Kong before the 1933 movie. So, but if you want to read it, it's good. I think it's right over 30 pages. But I'm JBD. This has been my review for Kong, Gods of Skull Island. Keep reading, guys.